We all know the big names: The Lord of the Rings, Dune, It. But today, I'm cracking open the secret bookshelf. We're talking 30 novels from fantasy, science fiction, and horror that are so good they should be on everyone's radar. Yet somehow, they're still flying under it. If you've read even half of the books I'm talking about today, you are either a serious book dragon or you live in a library basement. Hi there. I'm Jim, the father of this channel, Fantasy for the Ages, where my son Zach and I talk about fantasy, science fiction, occasionally horror, other nerdy things we enjoy. We share reviews, we rank things, we make recommendations with a big dose of fun along the way, at least according to our sense of humor. If you enjoy discovering new books, especially ones that will make you feel like you found some buried treasure, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on the future episodes when we drop them. And of course, a special shout out to our Patreon supporters. Before I go any further, you are a big part of the reason that we can keep making this content coming out to everybody. Thank you. When I decided to research and create this particular episode, talking about 30 brilliant books from fantasy, sci-fi, horror that mostly no one has heard of, but they certainly should have, my wife was like, you already did episodes like this not too long ago? She wasn't quite right. Yes, I've certainly highlighted some underrated novels from fantasy and sci-fi through the years, but this list, I specifically sought out from the past 55 years, so 1970 onward, the 30 best books from all three genres: fantasy, science fiction, horror, that no one's ever heard of. I mean, these days, nobody talks about these books, and they should. So, this list, this is something special. Let's jump into these 30 brilliant but under the radar novels, starting with the oldest and moving forward through time. First off, 1971, The Devil is Dead by R.A. Lafferty. This is weird science fiction. And this is a fever dream at sea, a caper that mutates into metaphysical warfare between demiurges, conspiracies, and whiskey-fueled wanderers. It's like a pulp adventure got drunk with Borges and decided to prank reality. Why should you read this? Because you've never read anything quite like Lafferty. And if you have, it's because someone else was trying to be like him. Second book from 1975, The Birthgrave by Tanith Lee, a fantasy novel. This is one I've mentioned recently, so if you've heard of it, it might be because of me. In this book, a scarred amnesiac goddess awakens in a brutal, exotic world and sets out to learn her past, uncovering desire, divinity, and destruction. Tanith Lee writes like she's painting on black velvet with molten gold. Mwah! Why should you read it, though? It's dark, lush, and fearless. Epic fantasy that is not afraid to stare into the abyss. Next book comes to us from 1979. This is The Engine Summer by John Crowley, science fiction novel. In a serene post-apocalyptic world, a man named Rush That Speaks searches for a lost love, piecing together memory like a fragile mosaic. The ending? Quiet devastation in just a few sentences. So why read it? Crowley crafts beauty so precise it hurts. This is short, perfect, and unforgettable. Also from 1979, I've got The Door into Fire by Diane Duane, another fantasy novel. Here's a quest story with heart. A swordsman, healer, and friends seek a God-forged truth in a world where love is radical and magic exacts a real cost. It's found family before that trope had a name. Why should you read it? If you like warmth mixed with sharp philosophy, this is a hidden treasure. 1981 brings us The Elementals by Michael McDowell, a horror novel. Two wealthy Southern families vacation beside a strange, sand filled house that seems to be growing. The summer heat isn't the only thing suffocating them. Why read it? This is sunburned Southern Gothic horror, slow, creeping, and impossible to shake. 1982 gave us Software by Rudy Rucker, a science fiction novel. An ex programmer is whisked away to a moon colony run by eccentric, freewheeling AIs. It's a cocktail of identity crises, cyberpunk invention, and absurdist humor. Why read it? It's cyberpunk that laughs instead of broods, and it still feels ahead of its time. Next, we jump to 1984, where I've got Bridge of Birds by Barry Hugert, a fantasy novel. Master Lee, I have a slight flaw in my character. And number 10, Ox, search mythic old China for a cure to a plague, finding legends behind every locked door. It's witty, warm, and wild. And if you think you've heard of it, I have mentioned this one on the channel before. Just a couple in this list I've ever talked about. But yep, this is one of them. Why should you read it? Because this book will make you grin, cry, and want to quote the book forever. Also from 1984, we have The Ceremonies by T.E.D. Klein, a horror novel. Here, a grad student's folklore research accidentally awakens something ancient. That's never good. Think cosmic horror that takes its time, then closes in. Why should you read it? Well, this is the single massive novel Klein ever wrote, and it's as atmospheric as they come. And yet another from 1984. What a year! Gems that were missed. The Vampire Tapestry by Susie McKee Charnas. This is a horror novel. A solitary vampire treats humans like lab rats until emotions, grudges, and therapy sessions start shaking his certainty. The vampire myth here gets the clinical treatment. Why read it? It's a clever, unsettling character study that refuses to romanticize its monster. Now we move to 1986, where I've got Soldier of the Mist by Gene Wolfe, who I'll acknowledge is an incredible author, even though what I've read, The Book of the New Sun, didn't work for me. This is a fantasy novel. An amnesiac mercenary in ancient Greece can see gods, but forgets yesterday. His self-written notes aren't always telling him the truth. Why read it? It's an interactive mystery in disguise. You become part of the puzzle. Gene Wolfe was masterful. You ought to give this a try. Now we go to 1991, where I have two books for you. The first one, Sarah Canary by Karen Joy Fowler, a science fiction novel. In 19th century America, a mysterious woman wanders into a Chinese labor camp. Is she alien, angel, or something else entirely? Why read it? It's a first contact story wrapped in a historical road trip. It's literally genre-bending brilliance. Also in 1991, then, I have The Cipher by Kathy Koja, a horror novel. A mysterious fun hole in a storage room warps reality. Two artists can't stop feeding it things, including themselves. Why read this? Okay, this is body horror as metaphor, written with raw, unsettling prose. Little shock to the system, but worthy. Let's go to 1993, where again I have two books to share with you. The first one is Ammonite by Nicola Griffith, a science fiction novel. On a quarantined planet inhabited only by women, an anthropologist must survive and adapt. Survival becomes a question of belonging. Why read it? It's thoughtful, adventurous, and filled with beautifully drawn cultures. Also in 1993, The Iron Dragon's Daughter by Michael Swanwick, a fantasy novel. A human child, stolen into fairy, ends up working in a factory building mechanical dragons. Her only ally? a cynical, weaponized worm. Why should you read it? Industrial fantasy with bite. Fairy meets factory labor. Come on. Now to 1995, I've got Tech Heaven by Linda Nagata, a science fiction novel. A woman cryogenically preserves her husband, sparking political, technological, and personal upheaval. Love meets policy meets time. Why read it? It's one of the earliest science fiction books to tackle cryonics with heart and nuance. Now, 1998, and we've got another book by Linda Nagata, this time Vast, a science fiction read. A tiny ship flees an ancient machine intelligence through haunted deep space. Paranoia, philosophy, and alien tech blur survival's line. Why read this one? It's a hauntingly original space opera with ideas that stick in your head. 1999 brings one that people a long time ago on this channel told me I need to read. So some of you know about this, but most have never heard of it anymore. The Descent by Jeff Long, a horror novel. You've heard of the movie The Descent? It's got some similarities, but they are not at all connected. But in this one, the world discovers an endless subterranean realm and something ancient living there. Exploration turns into horror, as it does. Why read this one? Well, it's claustrophobic, yet expansive, and it is criminally overlooked. It is book one of a trilogy, so if you like it, there's more to enjoy. 2001 gives us The Bone Doll's Twin by Lynn Flewelling, a fantasy novel. To save a hidden princess, magic disguises her as a boy at terrible personal cost. Identity becomes both shield and prison. Why read it? Well, this is a dark, epic fantasy that cuts deep emotionally. You'll feel this book. 2002, I've got The Mount by Carol Emshwiller, a science fiction novel. Aliens, get this, okay, aliens have domesticated humans as mounts. A prize runner starts to question the reins. Domination hides behind kindness. So why read this? It's a sly, subversive allegory disguised as quirky science fiction. It's something special and unique. 2003, The Etched City by K.J. Bishop, a fantasy novel. Exiled lovers drift into a decadent desert city where art, surgery, and miracles overlap. Beauty here has teeth. Why read it? This is weird fantasy with painterly prose, like sipping fine wine and finding blood in the glass. 2009, we have The Red Tree by Caitlin R. Kiernan, a horror novel. A writer retreats to an old house and finds a manuscript about an ancient oak. The tree's roots run into darker soil than anyone admits. Why read it? I mean, that didn't really tell you enough, did it? I can't spoil things, just trust me. It's a modern Gothic that's ambiguous and irresistible. 2011, I give you Soft Apocalypse by Will McIntosh, a science fiction novel. Civilization frays one small collapse at a time. Food shortages, social fractures, desperate alliances. The end feels disturbingly familiar. So why read it? It's a quiet apocalypse that looks a lot like next year. Also in 2011, The Emperor's Knife by Mazarkis Williams, a fantasy novel. A prince, marked by a magical plague, navigates assassins, court intrigue, and alien-feeling sorcery. Everyone's wearing a mask, some literal. Why read it? It's a tight, tense palace fantasy with very unique magic. For 2014, I give you The Lesser Dead by Christopher Buehlman. This is a horror novel, and Buehlman is someone most of you have heard of, but probably not this book. 1978 New York City subway kids are vampires with rules until something older changes the game. The narrator isn't exactly trustworthy. Why read this? It's voicey, vicious, and vastly underread. Check it out. Then I moved to 2015, where I've got Experimental Film by Gemma Files, a horror novel. A film critic discovers an early filmmaker tied to a Slavic sun spirit, and the spirit still wants its due. Myth bleeds into motherhood. Why read this one? Smart, unnerving, and award worthy without being overhyped. For 2016, I've got The Summer Dragon by Todd Lockwood, a fantasy novel. A young eerie keeper bonds with forbidden worms and is thrust into prophecy. Majestic dragons meet dangerous politics. Why read it? This is a classic Dragon Rider style fantasy with a modern cinematic kick. 2019, I've got The Remaking by Clay McLeod Chapman, a horror novel. A witch trial legend is retold as campfire story, 70s film, and 90s remake, and a podcast. And each time the curse deepens. The medium shapes the haunting. What the heck? So why read this? It's meta horror that's as clever as it is chilling. 2020, I've got two books to put before you here. The first one is The Unspoken Name by A.K. Larkwood, a fantasy novel. An orc priestess escapes sacrifice to become a wizard's assassin, leaping between worlds where gods keep grudges. Loyalty gets messy. Why read this one? It's big scope, lovable rogues, and fresh world building make it completely worthy. The other 2020 book I'll put before you is Beneath the Rising by Primi Mohammed. This is a sci-fi horror mashup. A teen genius cracks a door to another realm. Her best friend faces the cosmic fallout. Friendship becomes the last defense. Why read it? Because it's a thrilling mash of science, magic, and Lovecraftian dread. My final of 30 books for you today comes from 2021, Summer Suns by Lee Mandello, a horror novel. In this book, a grieving friend inherits a PhD program, a muscle car, and a vengeful haunting. Desire, grief, and ghosts twist together in the southern heat. So why read this one? It's stylish, it's moody, and it's utterly immersive. And there you have it. 30 brilliant books you may never have heard of, but absolutely should. Some of these are out of print, so if you do want to read them, you're going to have to go do some treasure hunting in those used bookstores, the dark corners of the internet. But trust me, that's part of the fun. Give me your thoughts on any of these books in the comment box, particularly if you've read them already and you love them, you hate them, you're completely confused by them. I'd love to hear what you have to say. I always read those and I do respond. Also, check out the show notes where you can find other ways to interact with Zach and I beyond the comment box. We just love hearing from you guys. All right, then. That's all I have today. I'm Jim. This has been Fantasy for the Ages. We'll talk to you next time.